Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Reading Room. I'm Mark Reed, and we have yet another Fundamentalist Fails on a Friday. Yep, it's Friday, which is like my favorite day to watch a Fundamentalist fail. And today we've got a particularly egregious example. A guy that dropped into my chat yesterday, so I thought I would. So it's a weird one. I was going to do something else, but he dropped in. It's made by Jim Bob, and he dropped into my chat yesterday and decided to be, well, to put it bluntly, an ass. He sort of just abused people and sort of carried on and was a bit, hostile and sensitive and all kinds of things. So I thought I sort of followed it back to his channel and looked at it, and oh wow, the fails this person does is incredible. So for a Friday Fundamentalist Fails, we've got to look at made by Jim Bob. Now, I do warn you, he is a particularly egregious example of fundamentalist bigotry and horribleness. We'll get into that, but he sort of challenged me to debate in my stream. He won't debate God. He won't debate his worldview. He won't debate anything about it. He wants to sort of debate wokeism and transgenderism. Now, I want to explain first off why I won't debate him on transgender topics. It's because transgenderism isn't a thing. It's not a belief structure. It's like debating gayism or homosexualityism. Like it just isn't a thing. So I don't see, I'm not going to debate on his nonsense. And the second reason is because he just wants to use it as a platform for spouting off bigotry and hatred. And I'm not there for that. So I'll debate him on God. I'll debate him on, things that aren't bigoted and horrible. But I don't see a reason why I would stoop to sort of, gender identity is a belief system. No, it's just a gender identity. I don't understand what the hell he's talking about. So, it's the same as people that describe sort of evolutionism. It's not a belief system. It's not. So welcome. And so, up front, maybe a trigger warning. Jim Bob is, well, I mean, I don't want to be mean, but he is a man-child. He really seems to me, and this is just my opinion, of course, take it with a grain of salt, just my opinion. He seems to be a guy trapped in sort of playground high school antics, just sort of throwing out names and calling people things and thinking that's, sort of excuses him from a good argument, which I don't think it does. So, yeah. Bigotry and hatred is bigotry. I don't, hold it a sec. I've got to read this. Dustin, your grammar and syntax. Bigotry and hatred, how is what you're doing right now any different? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. What am I doing? I'm pointing out bad behavior of an individual. At no time have I said that all Christians are like this. Neither have I said that all fundamentalists are like this. Really, I'm looking at fundamentalists that fail at the basics of, well, science, argumentation, theology, stuff that I'm interested in. So, yeah, no, Dustin, I'm not applying that to all Christians. Like, the problem here, Dustin, is that most of these fundamentalists, right, they will say, oh, atheists are this, right? They have these opinions, they have these views. I don't claim that's the same for all Christians or even all fundamentalists. They're very different. So, I don't know why it would be bigoted. It's not an open room, Dustin. I don't know what you're here expecting. This is really weird. You're very strange. Yeah, so I'm going to move on from Dustin not understanding what the show is, because maybe you've never watched it before. No, Dustin's fine. No, Dustin's fine. Don't, Dustin's fine. He's not a troll. Don't think that. No. But we're looking at, so the video that we're looking at is Scientism and the Limits of Science. Right, which is a good topic. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good topic. Now, the No, Dustin's fine. Don't worry about Dustin. He's just kicking off. He does occasion. That's fine. It's totally cool. Totally cool. I'm totally fine with it. Look, the scientism and science, it's a fascinating topic. You know, what are the limits of science? What are the limits of and what is scientism? If you don't know, so scientism is basically the concept or the belief that science, and there's a bit of sort of a couple of forms of it kind of thing. There is a couple of different things about it. So scientism is the belief that, or the system of belief that says that either science is the only way to get knowledge about the world, or it's the best way to get knowledge about the world. And so you've got sort of a soft and a hard stance on scientism, like whether science is the best way to gather and accumulate knowledge, or whether it's the only way to accumulate knowledge. Now, I would probably lean into the best way. I wouldn't say it's the only way. So a lot of people do. There's very people that sort of say, well, science is the only way. I don't think that's true. I think that there are other ways to gather knowledge, but usually those ways are very unreliable. They're not really, they don't give us the reliability that we're after. So when we're talking about the effectiveness of methodology, really we're talking about sort of the 3 R's kind of thing, the reliability, the rigor, and the repeatability, right? Or the oh god, I've skipped on the name. Anyway, there's three things really. So rigorous basically accounts for all explanations, right? It basically has an accounting for all possible explanations. Reliability or repeatability, it basically is how much it can be done over and over and over. And you know, the third one is sort of that everybody gets the same answer. Now, as far as methodologies go, science is definitely the best in those categories. And I think that if you think you have a better methodology for finding things out or gaining knowledge about the apparent world around us, or the world around us in general, reality around us, I think that you have to demonstrate that is the case. And how does that differ? Well, how does scientism differ from science? And we'll get into that as I go through the video, but I'll present it. Oh, hey, Speed, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see Big Bad Mama there. This is all because of you, Big Bad Mama. This is all your fault. You do realize this, don't you? It's not. I just need someone to blame, quite frankly. And Big Bad Mama's great to blame. You know how it be. You know how it be. Well, yes and no, BS. It's good to see you. Hey, Dave. Hey, Swifter. Hey, Dustin. Hey, who else is in? Gothic Troll Trades. Good to see you. Good to see you. And Jess, good to see you. Some of my favorite people in here. Really people that invited. Vic Lit, good to see you. Not sure if you're new. I haven't seen you a lot, but yeah, welcome, everybody. And yeah, again, a bit of a disclaimer on this one. He can be nasty, a nasty piece of work. I'm not sure how that makes him Christ-like. I think he thinks, that's not totally. That is true. That is 100% true. So this is his intro. So do we see the things on the intro here? This was a thing that I went, oh, he's one of those, right? Everyone only gets one jab, right? And as we go through his intro sequence, fifth booster, right? So he's basically an anti-vaxxer to start off with on YouTube. Yeah, bold. I reported this video. I suggest you do the same. He is in breach of YouTube's terms of service. He is giving out medical misinformation. That's what he's doing. And because he's not saying it aloud, he thinks he gets a free pass. No, he doesn't. He agreed to those terms of service. Abide by them. What are you doing lying and agreeing to something that you're not actually following? Don't be that person. Don't agree to stuff and then go, nope, not going to do it. Would that be bearing false witness? I think it would be, wouldn't it? I think that would count as bearing false witness. Hmm. So this is his thing. Uh, he's got he hates. See this. This is anti medicine. This is medical misinformation. Medical misinformation. So yeah, I think that he should be reported. He is in violation of terms of service. Yep. So he's sort of saying vaccines are problems. Yeah. Hi, I'm Heather, and I'm addicted to the COVID narrative. This is a problem. This man has no medical degree, no medical experience, no medical expertise, yet he's putting out this stuff. Like if you are not a doctor, shut up. I do. I don't claim to be a doctor. I don't claim to have, any opinions on the subject. Oh, this is hilarious. Siri, will the Antichrist be a handheld device? I guarantee you the man has a phone. It might not be an iPhone, but I guarantee you he's got a phone. Is the Antichrist a handheld device? Is that what he believes? I don't know. I wouldn't put it past him, quite frankly, that he thinks that Siri is the anti. Like, who knows? Who knows? Anyway, yeah. So this is Jim Bob. Yeah. So look for the first thing, Hubble Huggers. I guarantee you he is a flat earther, like, or he doesn't believe that space is real. He doesn't believe that space is real. Um, it's just terrible. Like I have a funny feeling he is a flat earther. I'm not sure what it means by science spurgs. The people that gave him all his equipment and all of his computer and most of the synthetics that he's wearing and most of the technology he's using were scientists. So I don't know what he expects. I don't know what he expects. Um, you know, do you go to the doctor and go, "Oh, hello, science spurg"? You know what? I wouldn't put it past him. Quite frankly, I wouldn't put it past him. I don't know. I haven't been able to pin him down. I think I've asked him once or twice in chats, but I've never been able to pin the man down. It would not surprise me if he was a just from what he sort of shows, um, you know, and stuff. I no sound really, really. Okay, give me a sec. We will try reloading it. Uh, give me 1 second. It technical difficulties. My apologies. We shall. You know what? I might just share the entire window. That usually works a lot better. Give me 1 second. Let's see. Scientism and the limits of science. Let's. Okay. Okay, give this a try. Probably will work a bit better.
Jump on if you decide to you're about to see. I can't tell if it's satire or not. I know something like this. It makes sense for it to exist, but I can't quite grasp it, so I wanted to look into the company a little bit.
This is a busy screen, I got to say, and you'll see that really he's basically shilling. He's like selling books, selling things, which I've got no problem with. But it's kind of he really is just pandering to his sort of audience to get them to buy stuff, in my opinion. But it's pretty bad.
Before we get into scientism, as people roll in, here we go.
Gosh, I'm out of breath. We made it. Woo! I don't know how to woo very good.
Yeah, so this is his thing. He's basically selling insults, basically saying, "Hey, all atheists are pig snakes," and that's his big thing. It's not an argument. It's not sort of any kind of thing to lay it on. What, my audio was low? Oh, come on now. Come on now. That's ridiculous. It's up as far as it can go. Give me one sec. It's not what I meant to do.
That's fair.
Oh, that is blasting in my ears. Hold on. That's too much. That's too much. I can't. All right. I just can't. Okay. We're gonna have to take it down a couple of notches.
All right, let's go.
It's already disturbing.
Let me show you how to game, bro. Okay?
The music's disturbing.
Come on. Oh, let's go.
Are you serious? Come on, man. I hate this game.
Take notes, baby. Oh man, you guys suck, bro. You look like the back.
Let's go. Let's go.
Dude, what? How did you do that?
I know the effects are crazy. It's dank. I could eat one of these every day. Ooh. Sorry, I got you messy.
Okay, how's the audio? Just let me know. Let me know. I don't want to blast anybody's eardrums, especially mine, or anybody else's.
It's really nice up here. How'd you find this place?
I don't know. I just kind of like to come up here to be by myself. I've never brought anybody else. I mean,
Life alert.
besides Harry.
She goes everywhere with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. That's
Guess I
just
must be doing something right then.
I guess so. We'll see.
Is he really hassling like Life Alert? Is he really hassling Life Alert? Is that what he's doing? Like things that save people's lives by giving a medical alert? Is that seriously what he's doing? I have questions.
See, I can't even tell anymore, satire or not. Now, it wouldn't surprise me either way. If it was satire, it wouldn't surprise me. If it was real, this is some sort of. Now, we talked about this before, as far as like what will likely be the iteration of the technology in Her, the movie Her. Similar, right? Similar feel, honestly. Even the music, I think the music from Her is similar to that. So it could be some sort of parody to see if people are even silly enough at this point to even investigate. But it's not too far off.
I think he's upset that, like, so when we talk about distributed systems, right? When we talk about consumer electronics coming up, we talk about IoT, or Internet of Things. Now, I think currently there's 4 devices for every human on the planet connected. So about, I believe it's about 20 billion devices connected to the internet. Okay. That is expected to go up to 10 devices connected for every person on the planet connected to the internet in the next 20 years or so. And that is IoT, the Internet of Things. It's so weird that things that are completely innocuous, and it's so weird that he is railing against this technology system that, Life Alert uses to alert if someone's in trouble, and he's using the same internet to broadcast hate for does anyone see the ridiculousness of this, that he's using the same technology that probably uses? I mean, obviously that will have a more reliable connection, but he's railing against the same technology that he's using to rail against it. Well, if you've got a problem with the Internet of Things, why are you on it? Why are you on it? Because you've got no self-awareness. You've got no idea how it works. He's got no idea. Oh, it'll be more than that, Scott. It'd be more than that, mate. It's going to be fridges, TVs, all kinds of things. You know, yeah. It's going to be all kinds of stuff. The Internet of Things is going to be massive, and there's implications for that. There's security implications. There is TCP/IP manageability problems, because we've only got a set amount of addressing systems left. Mind you, we've got a system in place to take over. So at the moment, we're on TCP/IP version 4. We've got version 6 already ready to rock for when we run out of addresses for everything. That's all very technical, but like, we're expecting this, we're preparing for it. It's not a great big deal. Why are you on the internet if you've got a problem with it? If you've got a problem with tech, why are you using it?
And that someone has a little button or on their phone or something, some apparatus that's talking in their ear. The whole concept from her, they push it as some sort of friend or romance. Well, my prediction is that it's going to be more along the lines of a life coach, but not just a life coach, a version of yourself in the future, some sort of concept-based persona that pulls from a bunch of inputs and metadata to present the best version of you. You know, like, you know, captive desk Dave, like 2 weeks from now or a year from now, when he finally understands the scientific method, and you'll be coached.
I have no idea why he's having a go at Dave here. I think like, with the best version of himself, I think he's just talking about the impact of social media on the way that we present ourselves online. And I mean, there's problems with that, don't get me wrong, but it's not because of the technology, it's because of humans. I don't understand, like, why is that? Like, the technology doesn't go, okay, well, I'm going to force humans to present in such a way that they are giving a sanitized version of their lives. Like, nobody's saying that isn't a problem, but the technology isn't responsible for that. Humans are. And, you know, it's interesting that he's giving a sanitized version of himself online. It's very interesting. Really, really weird.
By your future self. It's super creepy, though. Dystopian creepy. Now, if this is why I'm like, is that real, or is it just like a troll? That's something I would make as a troll advertising. And the music itself doesn't give you a good vibe. You don't want to buy a product with that music. So it's weird.
What? What? It's evil because I don't like the music. Okay. Look, the marketing could be the worst in the world. It doesn't mean that the product is bad. Like, it just means that the marketing is terrible. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Yeah, no, I feel like he would be in the 5G, you know, burning down the 5G tower, basically. I feel like that's what he would be doing. That's what I feel like. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Woof. Woof. Woof.
Friend is a large language AI that you wear because you're pathetically lonely. Yeah, it's really weird. Weird. It's a weird thing. So I got to look into it and see the company maybe on another stream, but I just want to show you the commercial because it's pretty freaky. Now, this is another thing that's kind of funny. I just made a meme because this is the narrative they're going with, like, weird. They're calling people weird, which is interesting because the progressive cult of progressivism has been largely based on the sort of worship and celebration of being weird. Oh, you're weird.
The cult of progressivism has the worship of being weird. I don't think anybody's worshipping that. Not in the sense that they have like certain like rituals or modes of worship. I don't think so. I think accepting people for who they are is fine. I think humanism is all about accepting people for who they are. It's so, he's just trying to justify bigotry and hatred with this weird, well, I'm going to decide what's weird, and I'm going to sort of other that weirdness and say, hey, you don't deserve a place in our society because I consider you weird. The thing that really, I think, really grates upon Jim Bob is that the fundamentalist people that are on the God bus, that's what we say in Australia. Yeah, you're on the God bus, mate. You know, get off the God bus. It's not taking to the place you want to go, mate. Not the God bus. Don't get a lift on the God. Like it's these like hardcore. They're the weirdos. They're really strange, and sort of everybody knows it. And in Australia, the hardcore fundamentalists that think that the Earth is 6,000 years old, they're weird. They're really weird. Like, weirdness is sort of a perspective from norms. So when you have norms, you consider any departure from those norms to be weird. But it doesn't mean that things are inherently strange. That's just your opinion. And you're coming from a fundamentalist Christian where you're probably in an echo chamber getting this stuff read back to sort of thing. And so you go, oh, well, you're weird. You don't have a right to give your opinion. You're weird. So, I mean, it's just Jim Bob trying to make himself feel better when, you know, I'd say most people would think he is weird. And Amber with a $2 super chat. Ties to the weirdness for the cult of progressivism. Yes, we are going to the Church of Progressivism after the show. All hail weirdness? I don't know. You know, so when you're saying weird, like progressivism, and especially like, because I don't think he means progressivism. I think he means humanism. I think he's trying to get at humanism. I could be wrong, but I think that's what he's trying to get at. So humanism, it doesn't consider behaviors to be weird or not. It considers behaviors to be harmful or not. So if you have some weird fundamentalist wearing a red cap saying Hubble Hugger that's presenting medical misinformation, that's weird, but in a dangerous way. So I would consider that just dangerous. Just you know, you are basically, you know, if somebody's a serial killer, they might act weird and it's dangerous. So we want to stop things that are harmful, not just things that we do not recognize as being ourselves. That's not what we're doing. So it's not so much that we accept weirdness, it's just we're not persecuting people for if they do no harm. If they're not harming anybody, why should I care? Why should you care? And that's what I don't understand about people like this. They're kind of, well, I don't like what they're doing. Are they harming you? Are they harming anybody? No. So why do you care?
Weird, you have one arm. Oh, you're weird.
Oh, look, I totally agree, Nitty. And weird is Trump in a nutshell. He's a weirdo. He's a weirdo. He says weird things. But, you know, it's the reason why I oppose him is not because he's weird. You know, when he was just a entrepreneur, you know, using that term very loosely, I didn't really have a problem with him. It's just he's doing dangerous things. That's why I have a problem, not because he's weird. You know, there's a few flat earthers like Nathan Luhman. I find him weird because I don't understand how he can be a flat earther. I still like the guy. I think he's fine because he's not really doing any harm as far as I'm aware. I mean, yeah.
You're autistic. Oh, you're weird. You're non-binary. You're this, you're that. You're weird. Oh, you're unique and weird. You're so weird. Now they're using weird as a pejorative, and it just shows how mass media works. Now this happens on the right as well. This kind of system where from the top, some narrative or wordplay comes in, and then it just gets replicated. And it's not some grassroots
Well, I'm glad he can acknowledge that sort of rhetoric of stuff happens on the left and right. I do agree with him there. Like, I think that rhetoric happens on, in the left of the right of politics. That's generally politics for you. And I think there's a lot too much rhetoric and too little actual policy and implementation of policies to help people. I agree on that one. So at least there's a point of agreement.
Natural phenomenon of society. It's deliberate. That there used to be something called local journalism. Now we still have it. Maybe they'll report on this or that, or some person who did something in the community, or they died, or they whatever. They're 100 years old, or these kind of events still get reported on at the local. But as far as like a local take on a national event or a national topic, that's gone, because what we have now is a narrative that gets pushed down the pipeline and then makes its way to the bronchioles of every region. And it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, there used to be a lot more local news, sure. I think as our as the things that affect us have gotten larger, like sort of state level and national level, things are becoming more intertwined. I think as travel times go down, I think as the internet sort of is connecting people in a serious way, I think that has gone more global and national. But I agree. But the prime offender of this is Fox News, who gobbled up tons of local stations and just sort of made them into the Fox network kind of thing. I think that Fox News was the main offender when it comes to that, and having a blanket statement across the place. But maybe he's got a point. Yeah, maybe we need more local news. I think that if people were more interested in local news, I think it would be more prevalent. I don't disagree that it has become, I guess, more distributed. And a lot of it is to do with just the system that we're in. Capitalism as a system, it will prioritize whatever's profitable. So having 50 local news stations is not as profitable as having one massive station in the center of an area that does all of it, kind of thing. And I get that might be a problem for you, but that's the system that we're in. It's capital. It will do whatever is the most profitable because that's what we're after. I don't disagree. I don't even disagree that is problematic in some ways. It is, but yeah, it's just a function of the capitalistic society that we're in.
Kind of looks like this.
Plain weird. These guys are just weird. That's where they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
Super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird.
They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird. It's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird. A weird style that he brings. Weird policies.
Yeah, it is weird. So what does weird mean in this context? It isn't saying they're bad. It isn't saying they're horrible. So it's just a departure from norm. And normative stuff is just what we're used to. It doesn't mean what you think it means. He's not insulting him at all. Bernie Sanders is weird, and I love the guy. Like, seriously, he's weird. And that's great. That's great. I don't understand why he's got a problem with this. Trump is weird. He eats a hamburger with a knife and fork. He eats pizza with a knife and fork. That's weird. And all that means is departure from the normative expectations that we have. It isn't the insult that you think it is. You may call me weird. I'm good with that. I don't know why that's a problem. It's so strange. I'm not saying it's so weird that you've got a problem with that. In this context, weird equals creepy. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it can mean that as well. So it's a departure from the usual sort of the normative standards of behavior that we expect from a certain person. Sure. That's a usage as well.
with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
You ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me, that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird.
Yeah. And so I'll use an example. It is weird that you have a person running for the leader of your country that is a convicted felon. That's weird. That's really weird. You know, it's really strange. Now, that may be because I'm from a different country, and you know, sort of being a felon would negate you from being a prime minister. But it's weird, right? I don't know what you want me to say.
It's as weird.
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
Yeah, I think we get the point.
Needed to be paired with some.
Yeah, so just as a sort of trigger warning, he does all these pop-ups that are supposed to insult people. Essentially, they're just straw men of whoever he's trying to sort of insult or, you know, childishly parody. I don't know what it's supposed to prove. I think he just likes them. I don't know why.
Visual. It's perfect. It's perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Such a compelling intellectual argument. I've never heard such a compelling intellectual argument before. Yeah.
So there's that. Scientism. So people think scientism, you know, there's people on the science side of things who think scientism is just a made up term that doesn't really exist. That's silly.
Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that. I don't know why you would say that. It's not a made up term. It isn't something that people have just made up. It just I don't know why you would think that.
And we shouldn't talk about it, but it's not going away because for it to be defined.
No, I think that the problem is that the people like fundamentalists have sort of hijacked the word to mean, well, it's just an opinion kind of thing. Well, yeah, but it's kind of, it's not really an opinion. It's a belief with demonstrable results. Like, we can back up the claim that science is the best way to find out about the natural world around us or the world in general. We can back that up. It's not like we're saying, well, scientism, I've just got an opinion. That's not what we're saying. I don't know anybody that will say there's a better way to find out about the world around us. I don't know anyone that will say that. What creationists switch to, probably at the advent of the new atheist, I would say, is switching from saying science bad, right? Because they used to say science bad. Science can't tell us anything. You have to have the God to tell us stuff because science can't. They switched from that to the idea that we have the science and you don't. We've got the real science. So they made that switch. It seems like Jim Bob's lagging behind because he's basically saying, well, science can't tell you anything. They kind of gave that up because it wasn't working. As technology progressed and sort of we kept inventing things that, you know, for all intents and purposes are miraculous by their own estimation, you know, what can you say about that? A question that I like to ask is, what has religion told us about the world around us, or invented about the world around us, or demonstrated about the world around us in the last 2,000 years? Like, what knowledge has it added to how we understand reality around us? I'll give it the answer. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We have the same claims as 2,000 years ago. We had the same thing 2,000 years ago. We haven't found out anything new from theism or religion in that 2,000 years. They came out with a book. The book made a bunch of claims. None of it can be demonstrated. What has it actually done? What has it done?
mind clearly so you understand what's being said. Science and scientism are not the same exact thing. Scientism is the view that science and the method itself are the best way to render truth about the world and reality. It's basically a dogmatic approach to all truth.
No, it's an evidential approach. It's not dogmatic. You might say it's a circular argument in some ways. You might say, hey, because it basically says the results that we get demonstrate that is the best way to understand the world around us. That is the only thing that it sort of says. It's not really dogmatic at all. So dogmatic beliefs, or when you have a dogmatic assertions, right? It basically means there is no justification for it, right? Now, science basically says that, okay, Dustin, I'm fine with you being in the chat. Can you stop trying to debate me? I put up something about this. If you want to debate me, write me an email. I will debate you, okay? But don't just yell stuff at me at the chat, okay? I'm very serious about this because I put a rule up to join the chat. I wrote a rule about it. Oh boy, yep. You know, so and this is for everybody. When I'm trying to do a show, don't try and debate me. Please write me an email. I will debate you, give you my full attention, and I will talk to you one-on-one, have a debate, have a discussion. I'm more than happy to do so. But when I'm trying to do a show, don't just yell stuff at me in the chat and distract me. It's just silly. Like, seriously. I don't mind you talking with the people in chat, Dustin. Talk to them. It's you know, it's fine. It's totally fine. I see your comments. This isn't an open room. This isn't a thing. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure I wrote one. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I wrote one. I will double check on it. But yeah. Anyway, so dogmatic assertion is basically just saying, okay, so I believe science is the best. And no matter what evidence is presented, you just believe science is the best, science is the best, science is the best. That's not how science works. It only works... that is true, isn't it, Big Bad Mama? I had forgotten about that. I absolutely forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I did schedule a debate and you didn't show up. Wow, okay. I had totally forgotten about that. Thank you, BBM. Anyway, so what science basically does is it say, hey, it's results-based. So when it produces demonstrable results that can be used to do predictions, right? So you make predictions. And the fact that it keeps doing so shows that it is reliable, that it does keep producing results. Okay, now you can say, hey, you don't know that it will produce results in the future. Not 100% certain, but the more it produces results that can be relied on, the more confidence that we have in the process. Okay, so if I can keep predicting things and they keep happening, or I keep finding those predictions coming true, it shows the reliability of it. Right? It shows that it can be relied on. It's not dogmatic assertion. Now, there is Hume's problem of induction. If you don't know what Hume's problem of induction is, it kind of is this whole idea that how do you know that induction is true? And it's kind of like, well, induction keeps on working. But that idea of induction keeps on working is inductive in and of itself. Okay, so if you go, how do you know the traffic lights are going to, how do you know you're not going to get hit by a car when you cross on the green guy, basically? Well, it keeps happening. I keep crossing on the green guy and it keeps working. It's just reliable. Oh, but how do you know that's not going to suddenly change 2 seconds into the future? Well, you can't know absolutely. And this is where the conflation comes. They will say, well, you can't know absolutely, so you don't know, right? You don't know because you don't know absolutely. That's not what we're basing it on. We're basing it on confidence of the repeatability. If you want to say, hey, at a foundation level, you can't know for absolute certainty, yeah, that's where it becomes circular. And I could go into a whole thing of the fallibility, the problem of fallibility, and everybody has that problem, including God people. Now, it's interesting that he's sort of claiming that science is just dogmatic when he is basically doing dogmatic assertion. He is just saying, well, God exists. How do you know that? Well, just because God exists. God exists, God exists, God exists. And just repeating it over and over and over. Yeah. It was a debate, Dustin. Mark Stoney turned up instead of you, and we had a discussion instead. I do remember it now that Big Bad Mama brought it up. Yes, it was a debate. It was absolutely a debate, and Mark Stoney had to stand in for you. So, you know, send me an email if you do want to, you know. Yeah, it was. I had a presentation. I had a debate. Like, I did debate prep. Like, what? I don't know what you were told. I don't know what you were told.
Truth. Now, an honest person who abides by and acknowledges and uses scientific method, an honest person would say, no, science really can't be the answer. It can't logically be the answer to the statement. It's the best way to do anything.
No, that's not true. So, really, if you're being honest, and it's more philosophical than scientific, every single answer to knowledge, foundational answer to knowledge, comes down to one of three outcomes. One of three. That is dogmatic assertion, just saying it's true, it's true, it's true, it's true. It's just because it's true. Circular arguments, i.e., something is dependent on itself, like, for instance, your senses. To know that your senses are true is dependent on your senses, kind of thing. That's a circular argument. Or infinite regress. Basically, there'll be something saying it's true that leads to something that's saying it's true, leads to something that's saying it's true, leads to something, and it's like infinite lines down. So fallibility is basically that all knowledge, not just scientific, even Jim Bob, he hasn't overcome this problem. If he has, he is the greatest philosopher in the history of the universe. One of those three outcomes. And Jim Bob here is going with dogmatic assertion. Well, it's because God. And how do you know God's true? Because God. How do you know God's true? Because God. It's just a dogmatic assertion. You're just claiming that God is true, and then just keep on claiming it again and again and again and again and again. So what Karl Popper, who has written a ton on the philosophy of science, what he went into was the best way to account for this problem with knowledge, how to have an epistemic basis for how we do things. He sort of drew from all three, being infinite regress, circular argument, and dogmatic assertion. So sort of draw from all three and take a pragmatic approach. How do we pragmatically implement it? How do we, without having absolute knowledge, how do we have the greatest confidence? And that's where science comes in. It's because it has demonstrable results. We can't be absolutely certain there's not a better way. If somebody said, I am absolutely certain there is no better way to gain knowledge than science, I would say, I push back on that. I don't think you can be absolutely certain. But just because we're not absolutely certain doesn't mean we can't say some statements about our certainty. Like, we can be very certain that science is reliable. And that's as opposed to what Jim Bob appears to be using, which is dogmatic assertion. Just, it's God. It's God. It's God. It's God. It's God. It's God. 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 Now, dogmatic assertion is generally what pre-suppers go in for. They just assert it to be true and keep asserting it. It's pointless, and it's not reliable. when you can show the reliability, and keep this in mind, these people claim to have a direct line to somebody that knows everything, and they can tell you nothing new about the world whatsoever. Okay, what's dark matter? How does that work? You've got a direct line to the omniscient. You should be able to tell me. No, they can't, because they're not sharing any information that's helpful whatsoever. Sounds a little sus, doesn't it? Just a little sus. So, you know, this whole idea that you are in communication with God, you know because God knows, you have to explain how you get to God. How you get to God.
You can't. Science is the best way to X is not a scientific statement itself.
It is. It is. I don't think best is a good term here. I think that science would say science is the most reliable way to get to X. I think that best is a really sort of it's a nebulous word. It doesn't actually, like, so is it the most efficient? No. Is it the quickest? Is quickest the best? It definitely isn't the quickest. Maybe intuition is the quickest. What we're really talking about is reliability, the idea that when it's done over and over, it will get the same result. It will get the same process no matter who does it. I think that best is a very, very bad word to use there, because it doesn't accurately represent what science is very tentative as well. It doesn't actually sort of address what it is that it's supposed to do.
So this is the first mistake that people make that send them into a scientismo approach, and it's
okay. I don't know what a scientismo is. Science uses induction. It uses induction, right? So it basically starts out with an axiom that induction is used. Like, the thing is that when the rubber hits the road, everybody uses induction, right? So why did Jim Bob turn his computer on and expect it to come on? It wasn't faith in a God. It wasn't because he prayed on it. It wasn't because any of these things. It's because of induction, right? Everybody uses it because there is no guarantee that your computer would switch on. There's no guarantee about that. You could try it and it could be broken. You could try it and for no reason it could start. But you still expected it to. And the reason why is because it happened like that in the past. You had a repeated instance of the same reliable thing happening, and you expected it to continue into the future. Why is it if you cross the road on the green man? I don't know. Everyone has green men, right? The flashing green man. Why did you expect to get across the road? It's because of induction. That's the process of science. It's also the process of how everybody lives their life. So Jim Bob here is railing against induction while he's using it in every single instance of their life. Like, why, if you go to the store and give over the money, that you expect to get the thing back? That person could just up and punch you in the face, but they don't, and you expect it because it's induction. It's just a way of thinking. So this whole thing of, oh well, I don't use induction. Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. So I don't know why you would expect science not to use induction when you yourself do.
Honestly, it's easy to step into. It's easy to say without thinking. If you're like a captive desk or an answers in atheism type tard.
Or a Mark Reed. I like how he added tard after that because he can't go 2 seconds without insulting somebody.
It's going to be easy for you to be pulled into the trap if you simply ask them, is science the best way to truth? You know, you just ask that. It's a very simple question.
Yeah, I would say yes, it is the best way for truth that we know of. Okay, so I'm not going to say that it's the best way to truth that will ever be found. there may be a better process. Like, I'm happy to say, hey, we don't know if there's a better process. Do you know how you would demonstrate if there's a better process? You would use it to tell us more about the reality around us than science. The problem comes that because science is the most reliable way to find things out, how would you demonstrate that if not for science? How would you demonstrate that? I don't know, because science is the most reliable way we have to demonstrate anything. And by reliable, I mean that when you keep using it, the same result happens again. And yes, that's induction. You use induction. You expect the same result when you do the same thing over and over. I don't know why you want to say, well, there's no reason. Yeah, there's a reason. It produces results.
Almost every time they say yes. Only a well thought out person, maybe an honest atheist, an honest naturalist, or an honest empiricist would say, no, that doesn't work out, that statement. It's already.
Well, I've said it doesn't work out. I'm not going to say it's the best way to find out things. I'm saying it's the best way we know of to find out things. Like, there's a big difference between those two concepts. It's sort of like saying, well, this engine is the most efficient engine. Well, I don't know what engines will be made in the future. I can't say. So saying that is, really, it's really limiting. But it is the best way we have found, and it certainly is way better than religion or faith or any of the sort of things that theists are using. Like, I'm really sorry, but until, like, you're sitting there with your computer made by science, your microphone made by science, all of your stuff made by science, and you're basically lamenting that science is the best way to find out things. I'm really sorry, but you're using the products of science right now. I mean, not to mention you're on the internet. Do you think the internet was created by scientists? Do you think the Wi-Fi was developed by scientists? I don't know why he thinks that scientists aren't involved with the creation of all of these things. They are. Like, when you go to the doctor, do you think that, casts, for instance, the modern sort of moon boot cast, do you think that's not invented by scientists? Do you think it was just that the scientific process wasn't involved? Wow.
Be a problem. I imagine her being very proud and JB saying, very nice, honey, Daddy will use it as a retarded avatar. Actually,
yeah, I think he just loves name calling.
Rampage ever since he was not really placed in the Four Horsemen tribe of atheism when that was a thing. That quickly died out. And now he's coming around as one of.
Well, it didn't really die out. It was a tour. That's sort of that they went on tour, and it didn't really quickly die out. Just the Four Horsemen sort of got old.
The older boomer atheists, the boomer secularists who are like, oh, it's gone too far. He's starting to comment a little bit on the wokeness or perhaps the replication crisis, specifically in the social sciences.
Oh, it's rallying against Dawkins. Yeah, it's because we don't hold up atheists like, they're perfect beings, or they have to have the right thing. We don't worship people like people, worship Hovind and things like that. We don't do that. I feel that, like, a lot of theists rely on that. Well, you've got to be right to sort of make their case and have people believe them without actual sound arguments. We generally don't do that. If you're causing harm, we've got, atheists and skeptics, and not all of them. It's a very diverse group, but generally we'll have a problem with it. But this is just overgeneralization, of course, lumping everybody into the same bucket.
DEI, the fact that you're appointing even scientific positions based on what? Based on social status, based on color of skin, based on whether or not you have an arm or not. He's starting to look at some of this and make his way into the more reasonable camp without fully recognizing that for him to make that jump, to even flirt with that, he has to defend objective truth.
He has to defend objective truth. Don't you think so? So objective truth. It's a very strange statement. So truths are applied to propositions, and I've been talking about this a lot. How so objective truths would be truth apt statements about reality, essentially, that would be independent of human stances or any stance at all, right? So if I say a rock is there, that is a truth apt statement that has nothing to do with, if a rock's on the ground and I say there is a rock there, that would be a truth apt statement with nothing to do with my stance on it or anybody's stance on it. It is just a true thing. If you don't think there are truth apt statements about reality, like if you think there are objective truths, then what's the problem? Like if we agree that there are objective truths or objective truth statements, what's the problem here? I don't know what he's talking about.
Otherwise, it's all preference based anyway. He can't really have an argument. So I noticed him coming around. But as far as science,
is he talking about moral truths or moral facts? I don't know what he's talking about, because scientists wouldn't say there's no objective truths, but the truths are the statements about objective reality. So it's not really that the truth is something that is out there in the world kind of thing. It's not something that you can find and put in a locker. It's our statements about the world are either true or false. Right? It's a system of logic. It's not that the truth is a thing. It's the truth is the status of the proposition about objective reality. So, and it's contextual. It's contextual. So there's implied context and there's explicit context, right? So, and I was talking about this the other day. I'll reiterate what that means. It means if I say it is raining, right? It is raining. That may be true for me, and it may be false for somebody on the other side of the planet, right? Because I'm in the upside down lane. I'm in Australia. So it may be true for me and false for someone in the Northern Hemisphere. It's because the context implicitly is where I am at this time, right? So that's the truth statement. It's contextual. Now, if I say it is raining where you are, and it's dry and there's no rain coming down, that is a false statement because contextually I'm talking about somewhere else. So truth statements are basically just descriptions of, well, propositions about our world that are either true or false. And they don't need to be about our world. They can be about abstractions, for instance. They can be about sort of things that don't exist at all. And then it's not really objective fact. Things like color, for instance, can be subjective depending on the wavelength of the color and the type of eyes. They had a sort of the white gold dress that was also blue black, and people would see it differently just depending on how their eyes were eyes had developed. That was trippy because my wife saw something completely different than I did. So there's things that, but I think I get what he's saying with objective truths, but the truths I'd more say truths about objective facts. Yeah.
Scientism and the problems. I thought this clip from Roger Scruton, The Threat of Scientism, was a good clip to start to just kind of introduce people using a guy with super messy hair. Because if you have a guy with super messy hair and he's old and he has an accent, it helps establish the authority.
Roger, I want to ask you about an article that you wrote that we published not long ago in the New Atlantis on another subject. It's called Scientism in the Arts and the Humanities. Now, people know what science is. Could you explain the term scientism?
Yes, science actually is harder to explain than scientism, but I assume that we have the idea of scientific method.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Science is definitely harder to explain than scientism. Scientism is just the belief that science is the best way of finding out truth about the reality around us. Science is a methodology, or one of various methodologies that are all very similar, that investigate the natural world. So it's methodological naturalism. It's a method of investigating the natural world around us, and it's harder to explain to people, kind of thing, because you have to explain there is a process behind it. You know, it goes from sort of observation of natural phenomenon to sort of asking questions to hypothesis to, you know, it has a process, so it's kind of harder to explain. That's not, you know, I'm not sure why that's a problem.
As a method whereby we advance towards the explanation of things through collecting data and experiment, through trial and error, through forming hypotheses and so on. And I think we're all familiar with this method in one form or another, although it's very difficult to put in words exactly what it can consist in. But scientism, in my understanding, is the pretense of scientific method when addressing questions which are not themselves scientific. They're not questions about the nature of physical reality or how you explain the phenomena that or the data that you collect.
Okay, so he's basically talking about people applying science to non-scientific fields, like religion, for instance. Now, Roger Scruton is a very sort of well-read sort of philosopher, writer, social critic. He mostly goes in for aesthetics and things like that. So he's a philosopher. He's not a scientist. And he doesn't do philosophy of science. So I'm not sure how valid his thing is, but he's entitled to his opinion, and he probably has a fair point. If you want to investigate things that are not part of the natural world, then science probably isn't for you. You can't investigate anything non-natural. It's only natural things around us that we observe, right? So there's no problem with getting to a divine answer or a supernatural answer through observation of the natural world. If it has an effect on the natural world, we should be able to observe it using science. Even if we can't give the answer, we should be able to observe it. So if you're going to do philosophy using science, it's probably a bad idea. Like it isn't what science is for, because when you're talking about metaphysics, you can't. It doesn't really encompass the natural world, the physical world around you. So it's you know, I understand what he's saying. It's the misapplication of science, right? So that's what he's talking about. But he's not talking about like whether science is the best or not at finding out truth about the world around us, because that's not the question he's talking about. He's talking about where science is misapplied to things that science doesn't apply to. So you're basically applying science to investigate philosophy, for instance. Now, people who believe in God might say, well, you can't use science to investigate God. No, you can't. Well, then why is it the best for finding out reality around us? Because if you want to show there is a God, find a reliable methodology to do so. Reliable, rigorous, repeatable. Find a way to demonstrate it using a reliable, rigorous methodology. But you can't, or you haven't, because a methodology is not, well, there's a whole bunch of people that believe this thing. Great, there's a whole bunch of people that believe in Krishna. There's a whole bunch of people that believe in UFOs and aliens. There's a whole bunch of people that believe in Bigfoot. There's a whole bunch of people that believe in fairies. So what? It's not a methodology. It doesn't show how you've confirmed your results to be correct. It hasn't made any testable predictions. It hasn't added anything to our understanding of the world and implement technologies. You claim to have a direct line to an omniscient God, and you can't produce a single implementable technology for anything. How do you do that? It's up to you. You work it out. But you should have a methodology that produces rigorous, reliable results. Not my problem that you don't. Not my problem.
Now, there are
included in that is the value itself of science. To value science, should we value science? We should value science. Let's pursue truth. These kind of statements that assume some sort of a telos or higher purpose, some sort of goal. Science can't provide that. It never.
No, the goal of science is to gain knowledge about the world around us. That's all. It doesn't have some kind of moral imperative. That's not what it's for. You're sort of demanding science have some sort of telos is really weird, because it doesn't really. It's a methodology. Like the person implementing, it's like saying, well, a hammer has no inherent telos. Well, yeah, it doesn't. It's what the person uses it for that provides it with its purpose. It can be used, for hammering in a nail, or in the case of David Woods, it can be used for hammering your father's head, as famously he did. Science doesn't have that. It is a tool. It is a system, a method. So the goal of science is whatever the person is using it for, but it has constraints. So they cannot just put it, follow it to wherever. They have to follow the methodology, methodological naturalism, to use that to test and prove definitively what they are hypothesizing, or sort of test what they're hypothesizing.
That's what's interesting when the Scientism cult, like Answers in Atheism and his retard friend.
Yeah, so there's another arsler. I'll probably sort of edit that out. It just loves to call names, loves to make these ad hominems. It's so weird. It's so weird because he sort of complains that people attack him and say things in his chat, and then he just does this. It's really low behavior.
They don't even know the scientific method, but they're assuming that progress exists and it's tied to science. Science itself has no say in what progress is. Now, this is very hard for the Scientismo cult to gather and have it somehow break through the cognitive dissonance that they have. But science doesn't solve problems. It doesn't.
Science doesn't solve problems. Well, we have a problem with, lack of power. Science won't solve that. No, of course not. No, pray for power. Pray for power. That's what you do. Sorry, I forgot. Science doesn't solve problems. I don't know what he means by that. I mean, it's just a methodology. It doesn't have an inherent goal. It doesn't have something internal to it. So people solve problems using science. It's kind of like saying, well, hammers don't hammer nails by themselves. Yeah, no joke. Well done, Sherlock. I don't know why that would be like something you would say. Oh boy. Yeah, so we had like things like polio, for instance. Scientists came up with a vaccine. We almost eliminated polio. Almost. But there are some people that want to bring it back for some reason. I don't know why. But that's what science does. In providing an explanation, we can then implement things to fix problems because we understand why it's happening.
Even tell you what problems are. Science doesn't tell you where we should go. Science can't tell you what progress is.
Yeah, it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to. I don't know why you would expect it to. I don't know why you would sort of say, hey, science doesn't tell us what we ought to do with it. Yeah, no joke. Why should it? This is sort of a really weird objection to science. It's very, very strange.
Science can't give you a value. None of this is true about science. And right now, I think for the most part, people who say...
Yeah, that's why we have things like sociology and other disciplines. You know, we have philosophy, we have other disciplines to tell us what we ought to do with science. We have things like ethics in science to tell us what we ought to do with it and what we ought not to do with it. A lot of it's based upon humanism. I mean, you probably don't like that, but a lot of it is based upon humanism.
Trust the science. Even the statement trust the science isn't a scientific statement. It's actually anti-scientific to say trust the science. It's a philosophy. You're in.
No, science isn't a philosophy. Oh God. At a certain sense, everything, a philosophy can be applied to everything because metaphysics is philosophical. But just to say, well, science is a philosophy. No, it's not just, it's a methodology. It's a system of doing things. Wow. It's a philosophy. Oh boy. So philosophy of science is basically Jim Bob saying philosophy of philosophy. I don't even know where to go from that. Like, seriously, it's not just a philosophy. It's a methodology. Like, another methodology may be pray to God and he will deliver everything you want. We can test that methodology and it doesn't work. Like, a lot of the time, prayer doesn't work. Like, not like if we use the scientific method to investigate how to do something and would implement that and do it. That works. Prayer doesn't.
Philosophy, once you say trust the science, okay, trust it to do what? To take us where?
To find out knowledge about the world around us. Take us where? We don't know. It doesn't make prescriptions for what we should do with it. That's not what science is for. It's like he expects science to be some kind of worldview that tells us everything that we should do and everything that we should go. Right? It's like he expects science, which just tells us, which is methodological naturalism, a methodology for finding out about the natural world around us. He expects it to be some sort of guiding philosophy that tells you all about the, intention of people and where we should put it. Science can be used for building nuclear power plants to give people power and improve their lives. It can also build nuclear weapons to devastate us completely. It doesn't tell you what you ought to do with it. It just tells you what is reality and what isn't. That's it. When they say trust the science, they're not talking about trust in where it's leading. We need other people to do that. We need to apply ethics and morality to that. We don't just say trust the science for anything it's doing. If somebody's making biological weapons, we don't go, well, just trust the science. That's not what we do. But the fact that they can make biological weapons, whereas praying for your enemies to die spontaneously doesn't work, one of those works and one doesn't. And let me tell you, there's definitely people out there praying for their enemies to die spontaneously. I'd give you the tip right now. Definitely around the whole Middle East area.
What are we trusting? Right? So this...
We're trusting and having confidence in, and it's not confidence out of nowhere. It's having confidence in the reliability that it has demonstrated over its time of implementation, because it gets results. That's it. If you can get better results, publish it. show us that you can get better results. When we're saying trust the science, it doesn't mean trust everything about it. Trust it to tell us where to go or what to do. That isn't what we're talking about. It's not like, because the problem is that Jim Bob thinks that trust the science, and because when all you've got is a hammer, all you see is nails. So he thinks it's trust the science like trust God. Like in the way that you trust God. Oh, I trust that he's got a plan and he's going to do everything for me and it's all this thing. That's not what we're saying. It's conflation. It's just conflation. It's just conflating trust the science as in, hey, it has been demonstrated to produce the most reliable results to explain the world around us. And conflating it with, oh, well, trust God has a plan and everything to do. That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying about science. I mean, if that was the case, why are there so many people and so many scientists sitting back and saying, hey, we've got to worry about AI. We have to take some measures to limit and to analyze what the implementation of this technology will do. We're not saying, oh, well, AI is on the horizon. Trust the science. No, we're not worshipping like that. We're not God believers. So not using trust the science like you would say trust God. It's not what we're doing.
This is the beginnings of why people who are in the cult of scientism, they look.
The cult of scientism. Look, I'm willing to concede that scientism is a belief, right? I'm willing to concede that. In fact, I did up front. Scientism is simply that belief that science is either the best or the only way of finding the truth. And, you know, I think I believe in scientism because I think it's the best way we have right now of finding the truth about the world or the reality around us. But the thing is, it's not a cult. We don't worship anything. We're not going to, you know, the church of scientism and praying on, like, what are you talking about? It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, you know, apparently I'm in the church of scientism, evolutionism, wokeism, all of these different churches. Not everything is a religion. It's not. Like, seriously, you can say, hey, you have a religious, you know, you go and fish religiously. It's just a metaphor. Not everything's a religion. And unless you're worshipping something, it's not a religion.
Look for some sort of goal, some sort of authority. They basically mimic a church. Now, they don't have a particular God as a persona, but they certainly have like an apostle priest class or something like this.
Who's the apostle priest class? Who's the priest class? Is it scientists? Is it the people that have spent their lives studying in a certain field? And we don't give them any kind of sort of knowledge outside that field. Like, so if you have Roger Scruton here, he's a philosopher. I'd give him full credit in his field. He mostly deals with aesthetics and other things, not really philosophy of science, but he's a philosopher. But I'm not going to trust him to build a nuclear power plant. I don't know why you would think that I would worship a scientist. Like, if I've got, say, a biochemist, for instance, he knows a lot about biochemistry. I wouldn't trust him to build a nuclear power plant either. And I certainly wouldn't listen to his views on morality just because he's a scientist. It's such a weird thing to say, hey, they're a priest class, when they are simply an expert in one area of their field, and that's all. I dread to think how you choose a doctor. Oh, well, I'm not going into this priest class for doctors. I'm gonna go to some guy on the street to fix my broken leg because I don't want to be submissive to any priest class. What are you talking about? Like, it's not a priest class if simply we acknowledge those people who have knowledge of a field. But it's not like we're saying, hey, they're infallible or they are chosen for something. They just simply have a lot of knowledge in that field. And people do come from, you know, I have knowledge in it. People say, hey, my internet's broken. How do I fix it? It doesn't make me a priest. What are you talking about? This conflation between priests and religion and things that are not priests and religion, it's getting ludicrous. It really is. It's sort of like saying, oh, you take your car to a mechanic, seeing the priest again, are we? How ridiculous. This is an absurd statement.
And they certainly have this collective mindset that we ought to head towards some place. They have a concept of the future paired with science. We need to trust science. Then we can go to this place. It's their own sort of heaven on earth, whether they know it or not. There's a utopian impulse. I'm not saying all of them.
Oh, how dare we make lives better? How dare we? He says as he sits on the internet and uses the computer. I'm really sorry, but that is hypocrisy on a level I've never seen before. Do you think that it was a priest that designed your computer? Do you think they come up with the architecture for the system that you're using? And if you don't understand what architecture is, I don't know how to help you. I really don't. Right? Because if you think all computers have the same architecture, you are sadly mistaken. Do you think that your telephone was designed by a altar boy or something? Who do you think made your stuff? Who do you think designed all of that? Who do you think tested and implemented that technology? Wow. Wow.
Express in language some place they're going to get to, but they certainly use the term progress a whole lot, and that's not, progress isn't determined by science.
Plenty of such questions, as we know. I mean, the question, what should I do in a dilemma, is quite obviously not a scientific question. I don't...
Yeah. And Jesus built my hot rod. Yep.
Solve it by consulting any theory. I ask myself what would be the right thing to do, and I perhaps enter into dialogue with others who give me advice. So that's a very simple example of a non-moral question, a non-scientific question.
Yeah, and this is the conflation he's making. Science is like God. No, it's not. No one is even claiming that. Like it's just such a that they are not, like, one's a methodology. We're not even saying science is a thing, a objective thing in and of itself. It's a methodology. It is a way to do things. Methodologies can be incredibly simplistic. Like, you have the methodology for, let's use our hammer analogy, the methodology for hammering in a nail. There's a certain way you can do it that is a lot better than others. For instance, you put the nail down there, you guide it in, you give it a small taps, and then you start to whack. Yeah, that'll probably get it in. If you use the claw side of the hammer and hit it sideways, is that methodology going to work? No. Which is basically like prayer. It's just whacking sideways, like you're just wishing things happen. Doesn't work. I'm really sorry it doesn't work. Show that it works, and then I will consider it to be a reliable, rigorous methodology. But the problem is they don't want to or can't, and I think can't is probably where they're at the moment.
Because it's moral. But there are a lot of other questions which we don't immediately
see. There's another problem with these idiots.
To be scientific, but we hope.
Yeah, so here's more of the insults for Big Bad Mama. He just basically calls people names because, it really... I'm really sorry. It reminds me of, the sort of playground bully that just calls names. Why? Big Bad Mama's right. Computer architecture is not made by, like, priests or Jim Bob or any kind of person like that. Computer architecture is made by computer scientists. Computer science. Do you not know computer science is a field? Do you not know that? Is he unaware that computer science is an entire field? I don't know why. Like, are you unaware of how computer architecture is designed? Does Jim Bob understand logic gates? I don't know. Does he understand truth tables, efficiency ratings? Does he understand implementable computer architecture at all?
These people. I'm not bitching about science, you retard.
Okay, so there's more of the insults that, you know, it's playground stuff. It's playground stuff. Big Bad Mama makes a very valid point. Yeah, you're sitting on stuff designed by scientists, condemning science. It's hypocrisy. And you'll sit there and call people the R word and call people this and call people that.
You already missed it.
That's not an argument. Calling people names and putting a graphic up isn't an argument. It isn't an argument. What's your graphics card? You seem to have some nice graphics up there. What's your graphics card and who designed it, Jim Bob? Who designed your graphics card? Was it a computer scientist? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Not somebody who had gone through computer science. Whoops.
Right? Deliberate, again. All of my little chirping atheists are deliberate pig snakes.
You filthy pig snake.
I'm not talking about science. I'm not bitching about science. I'm talking about scientism. Now,
you're not talking about science. You sit there and say, well, science doesn't tell us where to go or what to do or how to do it. And then you say you're talking about scientism. So this is the Mott and Bailey fallacy. Basically, he's saying all of these things about science, and he was saying things about science. The question is whether science is the best way to find out the truth about reality. And then you attack science because you don't think it is. And then you want to move to the Bailey and say, well, no, I'm not talking about science. I'm talking about scientism. No, you made statements about science. You made claims about science. You specifically referenced science. I mean, we just saw you. Are you unaware you're recorded? Okay, so I'm going to address this because it does thing on the chat. Was his threat to mass flag my channel at the start of the stream? Yeah, I pointed out how you violated YouTube terms of service with medical misinformation, Jim Bob. Yeah, you did. You agreed to YouTube's terms of service and then you breached it. That's not my fault. That's your fault. You should have some credibility and some honesty and not agree to things that you then break. I thought bearing false witness was a sin, but no, you'll agree to YouTube terms of service and then breach it. I will point out any YouTube video in breach of terms of service and say, hey, that needs to be flagged. What, did you think that you would just get away with it? Did you think nobody would notice? Did you think you're just above terms of service, that everybody has to follow it except you? Is that what you thought? Don't blame me for pointing it out. Blame yourself for breaching terms of service. Blame yourself. Or are you just a liar that agrees to things and then violates them? Maybe that, I don't know you. Maybe that is what you do. Maybe you agree to contracts with people and then breach them. I don't know. Why would you do that? Why would you think there's no repercussions for doing that? I'm not the one in breach of YouTube's terms of service. You are, Jim Bob. And I'm not going to apologize for that in the slightest. You don't want to be flagged? Don't breach terms of service. We're all here having to abide by terms of service. You don't get an exception because you think you're special or you think you've got some way around it. But I don't know you. Maybe you don't. But why do it? Oh, no. I've already been through that, Jim Bob, and I'm not indulging you any longer. I've referenced it. I showed it on screen. So
if you're going to say science and scientism are the same thing, I'm going to say no, they're not.
No, nobody's saying that science and scientism are the same thing. Nobody's saying that. Stop straw manning that. Nobody is saying that.
By the way, a computer isn't even natural science. A computer is a result of law, you dipshit. The fact that we...
A result of law. So some legally put a computer together. They said, hey, this architecture will be legally made. It's a result of law. How exactly does that work? Was it lawyers putting the computer together? Was it lawyers?
You can access laws of nature and predict them.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the scientific method.
Laws of nature and predicting them. No, that's exactly what the scientific method does. That's methodological naturalism. The laws of nature, the methodology for finding out the laws of nature. Methodological naturalism. Oh, yeah, no, well, what do you mean tattletale? Dude, what are you talking about? Don't breach terms of service. Yeah, no, it's my fault that people are breaching terms of service. Yeah. You know, hug yourself at night for that one. Yeah, well done. Yeah, that's what, you know, I don't know how he goes, well, it just tells us about law of nature. Yeah, and then we can implement that. Yep, because we find out through methodological naturalism about laws of nature, we can implement that. But they're not laws like legal laws. They're not written laws. You know, they're not prescriptive.
Okay? The computer is engineering. Okay? It's not natural science. The computer is a man-made object.
Oh my. Wow, dude. Wow. Is he serious? Look, engineers use science. I hate to break it to you. This is hilarious. Engineers use science, right? So when you have, okay, give me a sec. Just let's go to MIT, for instance. MIT. Say electrical engineering, you know, closest to my field I can find. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Electrical engineering, MIT. Science requirement for electrical science and engineering. Yep. And this is Bachelor of Science in Electrical Science and Engineering. Whoops. Whoops. I mean, I don't know why you didn't know this. I don't know why you didn't know that engineering, okay, engineering is the practical implementation of scientific theory. So let me repeat that in case you're sitting up the back. Engineering is the practical implementation of scientific theory. Okay, so we don't just have engineers go out and build whatever they want, right? We have certain scientific fundamentals about physics, about electrical systems, about how everything works. And then the engineers implement that in order to make technologies. Every single engineering student has a scientific part of their thing, and they learn how to do science because the two are very, very connected. They're very connected. But of course, I don't, this sort of, what this tells me is that Jim Bob has not actually been to a university. He has never done a STEM degree. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. He's never done that. I will call that boldly, because if you had done any kind of engineering degree, you would understand that the scientific method or the scientific methods is absolutely essential to your degree. But you've never done it, so you wouldn't know. The whole idea of engineering, like engineering, you might say, oh, well, they don't have peer review. Of course they do. Of course they do. So engineers have something called RFC. Okay, so there's like RFC 208.11, for instance, Wi-Fi technology, right? That's your standard 802.11. Yeah, 802.11, sorry. That's your standard Wi-Fi system. Now, RFC stands for Request for Comment, right? It's peer review. It's the same thing. They propose something, they show their work, they have a hypothesis, they put it up for other engineers to see if it works. This is the whole thing. They are using the scientific methods. That's what they're using.
That abides by laws that we observe.
Well, the laws are the descriptions of how sort of the nature works. Like, you know, Newton's law of gravity, it isn't wrong. It's just a model about how it works. I don't know that the laws are of themselves integral. They're just the way we describe them as laws.
Computer isn't a function of the scientific experiment method.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Computer scientists. Why is there such a thing as computer science? Why do they focus on the efficiency of algorithms and the sort of efficiency of the architecture that they're putting together? You do realize there's no such thing as just standard computer. There is architecture. There's various types of architecture. Integrated circuits have different types of architecture. Some prioritize efficiency, some prioritize power, some prioritize compatibility with other systems. Like, architecture isn't just, well, you just produce a computer out of it. No, you basically put together a way of demonstrating, you test to see whether what you're trying to do actually works. It's why we have benchmark testing. Why do you think we do that? Wow, I don't know where this man thinks computers come from. I don't know why he thinks that computer scientists don't design computers and then test them using the scientific methodologies. I don't know why he thinks that, but he seems to think that computer science isn't a thing, that it's just some engineer that does it all. No, it's not. It's computer scientists. So engineers are the ones, like electrical engineers and computer engineers, are the ones that put it together. The computer scientists are the ones proposing better ways of organizing the computer. Like, the GPU didn't always exist, right? It didn't always exist. Your graphics processing unit, right? It's an add-on that someone tested and experimented to see if they could make it work. And it basically uses higher level algorithms to do the mathematical functions, which is why people use it for bit mining. It basically just does really maths really well, really fast. But it didn't just appear in the computer because an engineer threw it in there from nothing. This is so weird. What do computer scientists do if not computer science? What do they do? I don't understand.
Technology. It's engineering.
No, engineering. Like, the computer scientist will come up with a theoretical approach to implementation of some sort of technology. They will come up with a theoretical approach to, say, they come up with an algorithm that will help data transfer between two systems, like distributed systems. They will come up with that. It's the engineers that will implement that technology, say, throughout the world. That's what the engineers do. Now, I'm not saying that engineers can't do computer science. They absolutely can. But when they're doing it, they're using the scientific method. The computer scientists, they're the ones creating all of the new technologies, the new architecture for computers. You know, they experimented around with quantum computers. It was scientists doing that, not engineers. The engineering is how they implement it into an actual implementable technology. And that's important.
I mean, it's already depressing. I'm already depressed. Thanks a lot.
Well, that's probably because you're not understanding what it is that computer scientists do. You know, And that's not to say that engineers can't do computer science. They absolutely do. That's why in any engineering degree, there is a science component, because engineers can do science too. But it's sort of, so when we're looking at things, we're really looking at theoretical versus practical, right? So theoretical physics versus, physics that they implement. The theoretical side of things is where they're using most of the scientific method, but it doesn't mean that somebody involved in engineering can't do theory. It just means that they're not focused on that as their field of speciality. That's all. And you can rail against it all you want, but that is how it is. That computer science is a thing. They use the scientific method, they implement scientific technologies, and that's where our computer science comes from. That's where your computer came from, is scientific method. Like, you can jump up and down and rail about it all you want. That's where it came from. It wasn't just an engineer throwing it in the computer. No.
Everything is natural. Humans are a part of nature. Great. Theism is natural. Good work.
Yes, theism is natural. I don't know why that's a thing. Like, yeah, all beliefs are natural. It doesn't mean they're true. What? Does he know that theism is a belief in gods, not the god itself? Does he know that? I don't. Like, you do know that sort of theology is the study of religion and, sort of by extension beliefs, right? Wow.
Why would you argue against nature? That's the end of your argument. That's the end of your position against theism and Christianity.
We're not arguing against, like, that people believe. We're not arguing like people don't believe in gods. That's not what we're arguing. We're arguing that that belief is true. What are you talking about? What is this? Theism is natural, i.e. beliefs exist in the natural world because, yeah, beliefs exist in the natural world. We're aware they're in the natural world. All kinds of beliefs exist in the natural world. Therefore, they are true. You know what also is a belief in the natural world? That Bigfoot is real. So it must be true. Clap, clap, clap. Yeah, wow.
Everything is natural. Humans are a part of nature. Humans believe in gods. Therefore,
yeah, humans believe in gods. Yes, that's part of the natural world. Humans believe in all kinds of things. Part of the natural world. What are you talking about? You're claiming that that belief is true. You need to support that. Not just, hey, it's in the natural, the belief is in the natural world, therefore it's true. What are you talking about? The belief in aliens is in the natural world. That must be true. The belief in pink unicorns is in the natural world. That must be true. The belief in fairies and unicorns is in the natural world. Therefore, it must be true. What are you talking about? This is nonsense.
Or gods are natural. Great work. You have no argument against God.
No, not that gods are natural. The belief in God. How did you skip from theism, the belief in gods is a part of the natural world, to the God is part of the natural world? How did you miss that? Like, you take a massive leap over that chasm of the belief exists to the God exists. It's incredible.
Gods anymore, dummy. Punch yourself in the skull.
Wow, yeah, no, that's really nice. What a charming individual. I'm feeling like this man is so charming. Wow. And that's just after you say something that ridiculous, that because beliefs exist in the natural world, the belief is true, and the thing they believe in exists in the natural world, and therefore it's true by extension. Whoa!
Sink your face into a toilet. You disgusting pig snake, unthinking, blasphemous pile of bacteria. So what? Theism is natural. It's not supernatural. Right. So you have no argument against theism then, because
Yeah, theism is natural. The thing that, okay, Jim Bob, just because a belief is in the natural world, it doesn't mean the thing they believe in is in the natural world. Okay, let's try and explain this. I have a belief that fairies are real. Just say, for the sake of argument, I do. I have a belief that fairies are real. That belief is in the natural world. We can talk about it. We can talk to the person. They have a belief. It's in the natural world. It may be metaphysical. It may be metaphysical, but it's still a belief in the natural world. That doesn't mean that the fairies are automatically in the natural world. I don't know why you'd have to explain this. It's so weird.
It's downstream from nature. Why would you argue against nature? It's completely natural to believe in God.
It's completely natural to believe in God. Which God? I'm not sure that's the case. If it's completely natural, like I'm not sure what he means by that. It's completely natural to believe in God. I don't know what he means by that. It's completely natural to believe in God. I think it is true. There's been studies that people have a preponderance to believe in God, but I don't know what he means by it's completely natural. And I think maybe he's falling victim to the naturalistic fallacy that's saying, hey, because something naturally occurs, it means it has to be good. I'm not sure what he means by that. That's a weird thing to say.
Another dumb mistake. Notice how you didn't say the mistake. This is a habit you have, old balls. You just make claims. You never recite anything.
Oh no, I think everybody could tell what the mistake was. It was saying theism is natural, therefore God is natural, therefore God exists. That's the mistake. That's the mistake. It's a non sequitur.
Okay, you're useless. You're a useless human being. Good to see you all, champs. What's going on, Justin? All right. While they keep spurging in the chat, we'll keep going with Mr. Scruton.
That maybe there'll be a science.
Jim Bob, you do realize we're watching this, right, and hearing what you say. I'm not sure why you're sort of confused about what's happening here, but we're listening to you speak, and it's recorded. I mean, I know you maybe don't think computer science exists, but you do realize the internet exists, and this is recorded, right? That you are saying all of this stuff. I don't know what you expect. Like, it's not a lie. We hear you saying this. Wow. I don't know what to say to this. He spells out exactly what he means, and then says, "No, you're misrepresenting me. It's a lie. It's a lie."
Will answer them for us. For instance, the question of, what is the meaning of Michelangelo's David? That incredible lump of stone in which so much strength seems to be concentrated in one little part of it, and that incredible concentration in the face. So, we all know this is a very meaningful thing, but we haven't got any clear method for understanding exactly how we find that meaning. So people come along with pseudo-scientific theories, like structuralism or something, say that the meaning of it is embedded in its structure, and here are the principles.
Yeah. Engineering, case in point, you can do engineering without doing the science.
Yeah, all engineers are taught scientific method because you can do engineering without the scientific method, but at that point you're focused on the implementation of technologies, not the research. There's two sides, research, and there is sort of practical implementation. At that point, you're no longer, doing research. You're just implementing the theories that have been created before. Like, for instance, if you get a civic engineer building a bridge, he's going to use the theory of gravity, theory of, tensile strength of metals. I'm not a civil engineer, so I'm not sure exactly what they do, but they're going to use all of these principles that have been come up with by, say it after me, scientists. And yeah, you can do engineering, but an engineer can also go, well, I want to test this to make sure you know, I think this will be a better material for this situation. I'm going to test it. How does he test it? He goes through the scientific process. He observes, hey, that might be more, you know, better. Well, that's the question. Like, he observes something, says, oh, well, that might be a better material. How do I find that out? Develops a hypothesis, says, okay, well, you know, if I put that structure on this amount of force and it breaks, then it's falsified. And then goes and does an experiment. They don't just come up with this and then throw it in, Jim Bob. Engineers don't do that. They test first. That's the scientific method. This isn't rocket science. Like, come on, Jim Bob, come on. Engineering can be done without science, yes, but at that point, you're not testing anything. You're just implementing what has been tested previously. And that's the point. But all engineers are taught scientific method because if they're going out to test things, they're going to need that because it is the most reliable way to test to see whether they are right. And you can get angry and jump up and down all you want. It doesn't make a difference. They're still taught the scientific method because it works.
Scientific method. For instance, we could build a bridge. We can engineer a bridge. Whether we developed math to describe the fastest.
Who came up with the math? I wonder. Who came up with the math? Mathematicians? Scientists? And for $2, Barnaby Wild says Jim Bob sucks. Yeah, I don't know Jim Bob. I don't really know anything. I know some of his sort of statements are very bigoted and sort of very harsh on people, and he insults people a lot. I think that that's a weakness of character. But I think that his arguments are terrible, absolutely terrible. He doesn't seem to understand a lot about actual science in order to discuss it. He just sort of strawmans what they come up with, you know, like what scientists actually do. Well, they don't do anything. They just believe whatever. Yeah.
Way to accurately build a bridge with the least amount of.
Wow. Do you think people that build skyscrapers are building it without math? Do you think that builders that put a house together, do you think they use no measurements? Do you think that people who look into safety standards for buildings, do you think that they don't, you know, refer to weight distribution and supporting guidelines for how they put up the structure? Do you think they come up with it every time? Well done. Well done, Jim Bob. Well done.
Margin of error. We could build things. We can make things without doing the scientific method. Trial and error isn't the scientific method. It's not the.
Trial and error is not the scientific method. It's not the entirety of the scientific method, but it's absolutely part of the scientific method. What are you talking about? What do you think a hypothesis is? Wow. Wow. Okay, so when your hypothesis basically fails, it basically, you go back to developing another experiment. So it's observation, questioning, hypothesis, testing. Once you test, and just say that doesn't get, like, you're totally wrong about your hypothesis, or, you know, you falsify that hypothesis, you go back to observation. You observe what happens during the testing, and then you form another hypothesis. Trial and error is exactly part of the scientific method. It absolutely is. And it works sort of on all levels. Like, just for instance, you're trying to find out what's wrong with your computer. Trial and error, exactly how you do that. It is the scientific method. So after your conclusion, you will also go back to the observation of that in action. So once engineers have implemented the technology, you will go back to observation to see how you can improve it. Trial and error is absolutely part of the scientific method. So, so here's the thing, and let me explain this and give you an example. That's an awesome example. The Wi-Fi that I brought up earlier, 802.11 standard, right? Wi-Fi. The people who developed Wi-Fi were Australians. It's a great story. They were actually looking for miniature black holes, microscopic black holes that they thought may exist. They falsified that. They basically came up with a hypothesis, tested it, falsified it. They were wrong. But what they actually observed was that they could, like the signal that they were trying to find the black holes with, they could actually see that being picked up on the other end. So they went back and tried to communicate something over it and developed Wi-Fi from there. It is all trial and error. Wow, oh boy, it's like saying it would be like saying, well, athletics isn't running. What?
Same thing. They're just messing with stuff and learning how to do something and make some object that's based on law doesn't require the natural scientific method at all.
No, but the scientific method isn't just messing around with stuff. It's basically, it's also, because the hypothesis, you're trying to falsify it. You're trying to falsify the hypothesis is trying to falsify what you think, not confirm it, right? And then you have to peer review it so other people do it too. Refer to the RFC standards, the request for comment standards published by engineers everywhere. They form the backbone of other engineers trying the same thing to see if they can get it to be right. The whole idea is that is the most reliable way. And no, you can produce something messing around, but it is not as reliable as the scientific method. Like, I don't know why you don't understand this. It's not about can you do it? It's about what's reliable. What is the best way to design a computer? Is it just messing around, whatever, just chucking things in? Or is it about doing an observation, formulating questions, formulating hypothesis, do testing, and then come to your conclusion and then re-observe what is happening? I feel like Jim Bob has never, ever taken any kind of science course ever in his life. Like, he doesn't even understand the basic methodology behind it.
Right? We learn by doing, and the law tells us, the laws of physics tell us and guide us, in a sense, gives us constraints. And we actually learn from the constraints of the physical world what we can and can't do by trial.
No. The laws, they just describe the reality. They're not telling us what to do. They're descriptive. They're not prescriptive. They're not like, well, you're going to do this. No, they're just the nature of reality around us. They're not. I don't know why you're trying to say, oh, well, they tell us what to do. No, they're not like legal laws that tell us what to do. They're just the properties of reality around us. They're not this prescriptive thing.
An error, but you can still do that. For instance, we could have built a plane based on just observation of law and trying a new thing, but there's no natural hypothesis. There's nothing. You don't need a hypothesis to build a bunch of things.
Well, yeah, you don't need a hypothesis, but that is the most reliable way. And the hypothesis, you both need a null and an alternate hypothesis, is the best way, because when you have a null hypothesis, it will falsify, and that's the most reliable way to develop things. It's not saying you can't do any of this. It's impossible. No, nobody's saying that. But the best way is the scientific method, and that's why we teach engineers that. And that is why they use it. It's why when you talk to engineers, if they're in the development side of things, they will say, sure, scientific method. That's why all engineers, like, there may be some that don't use it at all. There may be some that don't use it at all. But what they're relying on is the laws and the theories developed by people who were doing the scientific method. Like if you actually listen to what people say, engineering is the practical, and this is for people up the back. Again, hello, pay attention. Engineering is the practical implementation of scientific theory.
You just need law and to be able to observe the repeatability of physics and laws. Now, this is where they get confused. I bet these spurgs in the chat think that a theory can become.
No, call more names, Jim Bob. I'm sure it'll make you right, mate. I'm sure it'll make you right. Just call people names. That automatically makes you right, hey? Sure.
A law or something like this once it's verified. By the way, if evolution was true, it would be a law and not a theory. How could it not be a law if you're making an argument that evolution?
Wow. So obviously you don't know what a theory is. A theory is a model we have of whatever it is that we're trying to describe through scientific process. So a theory is the highest graduation of any idea within the scientific process, like the theory of gravity and germ theory of disease. I don't know if you believe in them. You could be a flat earther that doesn't believe in gravity either. I'd say you probably are a flat earther if you don't think gravitational theory is a thing. But natural laws are the properties of the universe around us. They're not the same as a theory. A theory is the model, a model of the universe that we can understand. It's a model that we've made to describe the functioning of it. The law is the thing itself. A theory is our best understanding of it.
Evolution is some sort of system, some sort of process, some sort of method, some sort of mechanism, let's say, a mechanism that unfolds. Then it's bound by physics. Nothing, you can't isolate what's causing it. You can possibly isolate the independent variable of the cause.
It's not trying to isolate the independent variable. The independent variable. I don't know what he's saying with this. Most experiments have a dependent and independent variable. You alter one while keeping the other the same. It's trying to find out if that dependent variable is the cause. I don't know what he's trying to say here.
And this is where they go, no, gravity's a law and a theory. Evolution's a law and a theory.
No, they say it's a fact and a theory. No, they say it's a fact and a theory. Wow, it's a fact. It happens. Like, nobody argues that a change in allele frequency or the change of heritable characteristics over generations does not happen. Nobody argues that. It's a fact. And the theory is our description of it. Like, gravity is a fact. Things fall downwards is a fact. You may think that it's God doing it, or you may think that it's magnetism, or whatever flat earthers believe it is. But it's a fact that it happens, and we call that gravity. And, our theories of gravity are how we describe it. It's the model to describe it, to describe why it occurs, and the the particulars of what happens when it occurs. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, though.
They're very confused about what a law is and what a theory is.
Which look like some form of computer code whereby we extract
yes, but the
from
alleles,
appearance
alleles,
of the sculpture its meaning for us. And
okay, BTF Wayne, stop. Like just because people are abusive and childish doesn't mean you have to sink to the same level, mate. There's no reason to do that. Can we grab that? Like, I don't look, if people want to defend me, I don't need defending. Like, it doesn't, there's no difference made to me. I'm simply analyzing this and basically talking about what he's saying. I don't need defending at all. I'm fine. I just find it kind of hilarious. That's all. So I'm gonna get rid of that one. I get you. You're very, it's fine. It's all good.
I think in the arts there are a lot of such attempts to impose scientific categories on questions that are not themselves scientific.
That's right, outstanding. That's a good point.
Surely some.
Yep. There's nothing in the scientific method that tells you how to interpret the data or the conclusion.
Correct. I don't see how that's a problem. No one's saying that it's perfect. Like, so when we sort of say, hey, it's the most rigorous, reliable way to find out stuff about the reality around us, no one's claiming it is perfection. This is where you've got a problem. Like, you sort of say, hey, God is the best, and you think it's perfection. Nobody's saying that about science, because we don't worship science. We don't worship it like you worship a god. Like, it has to be perfect. No. What we have is the best way to find out what is true and what is not true. It doesn't mean that we say, hey, it's completely perfect with no flaws, all hail science. No, that's not what we're doing here. We're sort of just taking the most effective way to find out about the natural world around us. That's all. Like, you're expecting all of these things out of science that it's not there for. It's like sort of getting your shoes and saying, hey, these shoes don't allow me to fly. Okay. What's your point? I don't understand why they would. I don't understand why science would teach you morality or be perfect at everything. I don't understand why you think that would be the case. It's weird. That doesn't mean because something has flaws, it's not better than other things. Like, if you put science together with prayer, well, when's the last time prayer designed a plane or your computer? Did you pray for your computer?
Nothing at all.
For
trusting the science causes autism. Yeah, and myocarditis.
Oh, there you go. Some more bigotry for you. Just more casual bigotry from the bigot himself. For sure. Because when you don't have arguments, you've got to stoop to name calling and, sort of this sort of bigotry and hassling people.
Myocarditis. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube now?
The empirical to inform our understanding of.
Yeah, so look, he knows he's breaking terms of service. He's got no problem with breaking terms of service. He just wants to complain when it's pointed out. He wants to agree to something with YouTube and then just ignore it. Just basically go, no, I don't want to. I gave my word, but I'm going to be, really childish and just sort of say, no, I'm not going to follow it now. When I give my word, I generally, I at least give a very hard try at keeping my word. That's what I try to do. I think that that's what people should do if they give their word. I don't know Jim Bob at all, but this leads me to believe that he doesn't keep his word. That he will give his word and say, yes, I will abide by terms of service, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to do whatever I want. I wouldn't trust a person like that. How can you trust somebody that gives their word and then breaks it intentionally? How do you trust someone like that? It's weird. Maybe when he's dealing with people and not sort of a corporation, maybe he's different. I don't know. But it doesn't look good.
Questions that are ethical or of our understanding of the arts and the humanities. But
all right, Super Echo. Wow, that was
where we ought to limit.
That was, oh man, that was the worst part. That was actually sad, Super Rec. I left the stream going, I can't even believe this is a grown man. This is someone.
Evolution is a theory because evolution defines what a theory. No, evolution doesn't define what a theory is. What is this person talking about? Is it if Jim Bob is hassling this person, he's right to, because that evolution doesn't define a theory. That's not what it does. Evolution is a theory, but it doesn't say, hey, evolution's a theory because evolution, like a theory is evolution. That's not anything. Like there's been theories before evolution. Are they aware of this? Theory of gravity, that kind of thing?
Who represents is supposed to represent the wise, who teach the young, who guide the youth, who deliver the wisdom. Evolution is a theory because evolution defines what a theory is.
You think that evolution defines what
a scientific approach.
He thinks evolution defines what a theory is, even though there were theories before evolution, like Newton's theory of gravity. Wow. Oh boy. Oh boy. Yeah, there's been theories before the theory of evolution. Germ theory of disease. Heard of that one? Maybe you don't believe in that one. I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea. Oh, I'm good, peeps. Don't worry about me. I'm good.
To these kinds of questions, where should we draw lines?
Well, obviously, in the humanities, as the name suggests, we need information about what human beings are. That's part of our data, and what their choices and their preferences are. But we also need to know how to argue about those choices and preferences, how to discover the human significance of things. That's where the temptation exists to, as it were, reach out for some ready-made science which will tell us, without doing the exploration that we need to do, of our own states of mind.
And that's philosophy. That's why you couldn't even come around.
Yeah, that is philosophy. But states of mind, I mean, mental states, it does sort of, you do get into it with neurology and psychology, but I don't think sort of science really goes into mental states as in, subjective things. I don't think it really is designed for that. I don't think it sort of gets into why people believe what they believe, or what's the nature of the universe, or what's the goal of the universe, or metaphysical questions. I don't think so. I think it just, so metaphysical doesn't mean supernatural for a start. It just means things that are not part of the natural. Abstractions can be metaphysical. Like, for instance, if I have an abstraction of a certain character, like, Sheldon Cooper, the concept of him is metaphysical, as well as all other metaphysical things that are not in the physical world, because that character is not in the physical world. It's just an abstraction. It's just a conceptual thing that has been designed. It doesn't mean that that's supernatural, but science doesn't get into those metaphysical things. It deals with the natural. That's why it's methodological naturalism. But you don't seem to understand that, or maybe you don't want to understand that. I don't know.
Round to a judgment about science without philosophy. That's why science needs philosophy to precede it. You don't do science without the philosophy of science. It's impossible. So once
Well, philosophy covers everything, Jim Bob. It's like you can't do engineering without philosophy. Yeah, philosophical concepts kind of describe everything. I'm not saying that philosophy is useless like some people do, or say, you know, some things are whatever. You know, I'm not saying that philosophy is useless or not interesting. I don't think that I would say that. I think that philosophy is a way to address everything, or you know, sort of thinking about everything. So in philosophy, the fact that it's sort of epistemology and ontology is kind of everything. It doesn't mean that in some way science is subservient to philosophy, or sort of, you know, but I think there's philosophical questions that science just doesn't even attempt to answer because they're not within the scope. Like, you don't, it's very strange to hear creationists talk about, like, oh, well, you've got this thing, it's got to encapsulate everything, like my belief in God. Why? Like, just because your answer for literally everything is God doesn't mean that we have to acknowledge that is the case. And you've got to demonstrate that that answer is correct. You can't just assert it.
To get into the ethical claims or the value judgments about science and where we're going and why we ought to ignore this thing, and you know, we have to evolve past, let's say, theism, as the Spurgs in the chat would say. They have science.
Yeah, so more name calling because he doesn't have an argument, and I don't, you know, I'm not sure anybody's sort of saying, hey, we got to evolve past theism. Atheism isn't the idea that theism is necessarily bad, or that we have to do this or we have to do that. It's just a not believing in a God. So I don't know why it would, you know, oh, we've got to evolve. And I'm not sure that evolution would sort of support that. I think that Jim Bob doesn't understand the evolutionary process. I really don't think so.
Science can't give them that answer, ever. It never will. It can't. It's a category error. They're constantly in a category error. I blame the Enlightenment. Big Bad Mama says we have peer review as part of the scientific process. Well, it depends what category. Okay, so in social sciences and these things, someone got a copy of Mein Kampf approved by peer review. Okay, so even peer.
Okay, so peer review, the fact that it's got problems doesn't mean that it's not useful and doesn't help the process. If you don't have peer review, you're just letting through anything that anybody writes. Like, you're basically saying, hey, peer review let something through that it shouldn't have. It's like saying, hey, there's a corrupt cop, so we shouldn't have laws or police forces. There's a problem with it, so let's do away with it entirely. Why does that follow? Why does that follow? But, you know, obviously he doesn't understand science, and peer review does a lot more for the process, because people being able to review and test ideas definitely adds to the knowledge that we have about the topic. I don't, you know, refer to my previous statement about engineers and the RFC process. It's a request for comment. It's peer review. But you don't understand that engineers also do science. So, yeah, pretty bad.
For review, you'd have to say, well, what's the mechanism, the safeguard from in peer review for these kinds of things happening? It just pushes the question down the line. Peer review isn't some absolute arbiter either. You have a literal interpretation of an 8 pages of gen.
No, nobody's saying that peer review is an absolute arbiter any more than people are saying that customs service absolutely will stop all illegal imports. Nobody's saying that. That's the thing. It's this black and white thinking that we're seeing from Jim Bob here. It's this, well, if customs doesn't absolutely stop everything, then it's useless. No. Why would we say that? It's kind of this idea that, well, it isn't perfect. And again, I have to go back to the idea that creationists have about this God. It's like, well, it's perfect. They're sort of going to expecting absolute perfection out of everything. I don't know why. It's very strange.
Genesis as your natural. No, you're not really arguing. We're not talking about Genesis. You keep doing this false dichotomy. We're talking about science. Okay. I don't replace science with Genesis. Okay. So you're just straw manning. Again, punch yourself in the.
Well, what do you replace science with, Jim Bob? Maybe that's a better question. What would you replace science with? Faith? People just throwing things together and publishing whatever they find as truth? If not the scientific method, what methodology are you using, and how do you demonstrate it is a more reliable methodology? How do you show that that is a more reliable methodology? Like, don't dodge and duck and criticize science. Show that your methodology is better. Show that you're saying anybody can just design a bridge or whatever. Why can't you design a better one? Go design a better one without the scientific method. Don't use it. If you've got a problem with the scientific method, don't use it and get better results. Because scientism saying, hey, science is the best way to find out about the natural world, right? You're basically saying, no, science isn't the best way to find out about the world around us. There's a better way. What's that better way? Why aren't you using that instead? Why aren't you praying for your bridge to go up instead? Why aren't you using whatever better way? Because if you say science isn't the best way, what is? What is? So saying scientism is wrong is saying there is a better way to do it. What is it? What is it?
Sink your fat head into a toilet and just hit flush.
Yeah, this is more childishness and you know. Ooh, it's hard to watch, to be honest with you. It's sort of seeing a grown man act like this is kind of hard to watch. I won't lie. It's really hard to watch. You know, I think sort of this childishness and this name calling is kind of, yeah.
A million times, okay?
You know, what is it that I feel towards this? How would I put that into words?
Right.
How would I justify it to you?
Truth via consensus. Yeah, there's a consensus among the people who are trained in the field. Yeah. Yeah. So if we have, like, you have an unknown disease and basically you go and see a doctor and then you get a second opinion and then maybe you get a whole bunch of specialists who all agree, that's probably the best way to do it. Or you could just go with whatever, but you know, you don't go, oh, well, truth by consensus. No. You say, hey, I'd rather have more doctors giving opinions than just one.
And how would I respond to your counter?
Peer review. I'm a peer review.
So I'd welcome viewers to read this article, Scientism in the Arts and the Humanities, which concludes with, among other things, a lovely takedown of meme theory, which you really kind of take to task for. It's being an example of scientism and overreach of the scientific method.
What I'm saying is that the definition of scientism and what it implies is just wrong.
Okay, guys, so today I
what
want
does
to
it imply?
discuss scientism, or...
Okay, we're not going to look at this. We're going to look at another one here. We're going to look at...
I'm not sure what Speed is sort of saying here. I'm not really sure. Not really sure. Definition of scientism. Well, I mean, I've given the definition that I use. I'm not sure if Jim Bob. I don't think Jim Bob's is any different. He's sort of saying that, hey, it's the belief that science is the best way to find best way to get truth about the reality around us. I don't know. I don't know if it's any different. Speed, you're going to have to. No, that isn't scientism. Speed. That isn't scientism. That's. It's not everything in our lives. It's that it is the best methodology for finding the truth. And I mean, there's a hard version which says it's the only way of finding the truth. And some people think that. I'm a bit lighter on that one.
This guy. What do you mean the definition of scientism? The scientism is this. It's really simple. Answers in atheism. Scientism is simply smuggling in a philosophical value judgment onto science, the method. That's all it is. It's a perversion.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? A philosophical judgment. Sorry, you're smuggling in a philosophical judgment value onto science. No, it's just a belief about science. What are you talking about? Like, if you're saying, hey, it's a value judgment, like it's a belief upon the value of science, then yeah. But it's not smuggling it in. What are you talking about?
Version of science. It's adding in some other purpose to science itself that isn't in the scientific method. This isn't very difficult. I mean,
no, it's not putting a purpose into it. It's just evaluating science as the best way to find it out. I don't. What?
It's almost like you guys are willfully. It's almost like you have a will, like a want, a desire to not grant a single thing, to not accept one thing.
It's like saying, well, theism's being smuggled into religion. Like, like what? Like, I think the problem is that he only thinks in terms of religion. So theism is a necessity of a religion. But it's not. There's other religious things like deists, for instance. Or, Scientology is a religion, not necessarily theism, right? It's really weird. I don't know why it would be integral to this. Like, simply having a position on the efficacy of science doesn't mean you're smuggling it into the method. Like, you just have an opinion about the efficacy of science. Wow. And it's not that we go, oh, well, we believe in scientism, therefore we use science. It's just that seems to be the best thing we can use at the moment. Okay, if you say that scientism is untrue, if you're saying that something else can be applied more reliably, show it. I mean, just show it.
And then you have no counters. You just say, nuh-uh, nuh-uh. That's all you do. It's worthless. You're worthless. Seen aside is something we should consider.
Wow, what a toxic statement. What a toxic person. Wow.
Cowards want to nitpick science. No, scientists, if they're doing it properly, are nitpicky. Okay? They don't want to discuss. Genesis isn't a scientific claim, dummy. So stop bringing it up unless you want to get banned.
It is a claim, though. It's a claim. And, obviously he can't actually argue against Big Bad Mama because, threatens to ban and stuff. But, yeah, I think that sort of, even though, the claim that, well, Genesis isn't a scientific claim, it is still a claim. It's a knowledge claim that this thing, in fact, actually happened. So it's not scientific because it's not part of the natural world. Sure. I totally get that. But if you're going to make a claim, you've got to have some way of demonstrating it. And to do that, you've got to have some methodology for doing so. Dogmatic assertion is not enough, I'm afraid.
Okay, if you're going to derail the chat with category errors the whole time and keep people off of the topic, you're going to get banned. Okay, Big Bad Mama, that's your warning. We're not talking about Genesis or theology. We're talking about science and the distinction between scientism and the scientific method. Okay, we're not talking about Genesis. No one here is saying replace the scientific method with Genesis. Okay, shut your fat face. Answers in Atheism says scientism is the view that all things can be informed by what we know about the natural world through science. Okay, that's just another way of saying it. That's like saying the same thing I opened with. Okay, it's the same way of saying scientism is the view that science and the scientific method are the best or only way to render truth about the world in reality.
Yeah, no, that definition's fine. I don't have a problem with that definition. I don't have a problem with it. That's fine. But if you're claiming it isn't, then present something that's better. I mean, we'd all love him to. Go for it. But he's sort of saying, it seems like he's sort of saying, well, I don't like what science presents. Like, I don't like, I don't know if he's a flat earther. I suspect so, but I think he doesn't like flat earth stuff. He doesn't like the medical industry, obviously, because he's been showing pictures of medical misinformation. I think that he is trying to sort of say, well, I don't like some of the conclusions of science, therefore I've got a problem with science. I'm going to, state it's not the best way. But he still wants to use science. So it's kind of, well, he's only agreeing with the science that he agrees with. It's much like Kent Hovind or flat earthers, or those other people that say, oh, well, this science is fine because it powers my computer. It provides me electricity. That science is fine because it describes all of these things when I would need to catch a plane. Science applied to aerodynamics is fine. Science applied to computer science is fine because it benefits me. Science applied to communications is fine because I get to talk on the internet. All of that science is fine, but it's the scientific conclusions that I disagree with that make it invalid. And that's not a way that we operate. That, the methodology has to be applied rigorously and reliably across all fields, or it just doesn't work. So sort of saying, well, I've never said that we don't want to do science. Isn't that what you've been, your scientism, the idea that it's the best way, is what you've been railing about all this time? The most reliable, rigorous way to find the truth. If you've got a more reliable, rigorous way, present it. If not, I'm not, at this point, I don't even know what he's railing against. He just wants to say, no, it wasn't science that was behind it wasn't the scientific method that the computer scientists used to design my computer. It wasn't the scientific method that came up for structural integrity to design bridges. It wasn't I'm really sorry, you're just wrong. It was. But he doesn't like evolution. He doesn't like this thing. He doesn't like that thing. So he wants to reject those parts of science. Well, nobody cares that you don't like that, Jim Bob. I'm really sorry, mate. No one cares. Because that's where the methodology came to. And it's rigorous and it's reliable. And we applied it to various things. We applied the same kind of methodologies to evolution as we did to designing your computer. I'm really sorry you don't like that, but that's the truth. It's just your religious belief. You can't believe anything differently. But stop strawmanning what science is. Stop strawmanning evolution. Stop strawmanning all of these things and sort of, getting outraged about it. Because, let's face it, he's here on the internet railing and yelling and jumping up and down. Nobody in the scientific fields cares in the slightest. Do you think if I'm working as an engineer and he says, no, I don't like how your network is put together and you're... So? Science, dude. And this whole idea that it should tell you where you're going and tell you about what you should do with it. No, it doesn't. It's just there to tell you the properties of the world around you. That's all. Doesn't tell you how you should use it. Doesn't tell you what it should be used for. Doesn't tell you any of that stuff. We need other things for that. We need ethics. We need sort of sociology. We need other fields to tell us, psychology, and all other fields to tell us what we should be doing and what we should be applying it towards. So like I said, you're complaining that your shoes don't make you fly. It's not what shoes are for, mate. Not what shoes are for. And that's not what science is for. Yeah, I think I will leave it there. As Maya said, I usually don't go this long, but yeah, this is hard to watch. This is a grown man, to be honest with you, acting like a schoolyard bully. It's kind of really, really hard to watch, really hard to watch. So yeah, I'm going to call it. This is sort of the stuff that he goes on about, sort of saying that computers aren't designed by computer scientists and things. It's very tragic. Yeah. And yeah, he's going to be mad, and he's going to do all these stuff. Go for it. Go for it. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. Yeah, I don't have a problem, but I'm not going to stoop to sort of name calling and childish stuff, because I don't have to. When you have decent arguments, you don't have to stoop to name calling and stuff. And I think that as far as labels go, the labels you should be applying to people are those which they choose and those which they earn. So this kind of idea that, oh, we can't call bigots a bigot because it's name calling. Come on, dude. I mean, you might as well make the argument you can't call racist racist, because that's name calling. What are you talking about? Seriously. Seriously. Yeah, I mean, he can be mad. It's fine. The stuff that he said is so ignorant about what the actual science is and how it's used. I really would recommend that he go talk to some engineers, some people that have done degrees. Go talk to some scientists, some people that actually use science, because I think he's in an echo chamber where sort of people are just, and I don't know this for sure, but I would presume people are just telling him, oh yeah, evolution, that's not got all this stuff. Yeah, I realize that people are saying that to you. I get that, but there's nothing people can do about what other Christians say to you. You probably should go to the experts in the field. But yeah. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's not even worrying me in the slightest. It's just a fun time. I would describe that as floundering, to be honest with you. Some of the stuff said in there is kind of really terrible, like sort of the misinterpretations, the leaps of logic that I don't even know how he got to theism is natural, therefore God, like the belief entailed is natural. I don't know how those entailments got there, I'll be honest with you. It's yeah, that's something else. Wow. Yeah, but thank you so much for joining me. Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. No, I welcome anybody sort of, giving stuff back. It doesn't, this entire thing of going to like, oh, you've got this opinion of what I've said. Why would I care? People are going to have opinions of what you say. If you want to stop that, then you're in the wrong place. It's it's really funny, because it's just, yeah, I rely on my arguments. I don't have to call people things, or I don't have to tell people to go hurt themselves or do this to themselves. I don't have to. I don't have to. So yeah. I stand by my arguments, but sure. But thank you everybody for joining me. It's been a wild ride. You know, I think maybe some maturity needs to be sort of come into the room. I think people probably ought to start acting like adults instead of children. What I've seen and the behavior of not only in the stream but also in the chat, the behavior is very childish and arrested development. You know, the idea that you're right if you just go onto the playground and call people names is, I don't know why anybody would believe that. It's really it's kind of tragic to see people acting like this. It sort of is, to me, in my opinion, it's a definite lack of character. But you know, it's your life. Yeah, so thank you everybody so much. Really appreciate it. Oh geez, I've had a couple of things come in. Kentucky Atheist, new member, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Barnaby Wild, $2 super sticker, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barnaby. I really appreciate it, mate. What was the sticker, by the way? I didn't actually see that. Oh, did I close the tab? I closed the tab. No worries. Yeah, thanks, Barnaby. It's always good. Oh, one up. The one up. The extra life. Yeah. Oh, God. Are you telling me to get a life, Barnaby? Is that what you're doing? No worries. All right. Well, as always, be kind to yourself, be kind to others around you, and do have a fantastic day. See ya.